Do you want to know about the future? I do, and I know you do too. That's why we do what we do, right here at the Singularity Lab, just for you. Do you want to know about stories about breaking technology? Science? Look right here, I'm looking at my sheet. Marty did it, why can't you? Remember, this is a public access channel. We rely on your donations, so just hit the Patreon. So we can continue to bring you updated science and technology, breaking news every single day. Patreon. Every single day.
Every single day.
I love it.
Oh, what is going on? Do you hear that too? I hear
Yeah. Do you have a window open, Michael?
It's coming out of a different computer. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, boy, that's perfect. Perfect.
Sounds good.
You can't stop it.
Yeah. There you go. Excellent, man. Excellent. That's a great way to start the show.
You know what? We're live, baby. I mean, I feel like I could do 2-hour live stream in my sleep now after this weekend.
Whew, man, I'm thinking 2 hours is going to fly by today, but we'll see. We'll see. I have a feeling it will, because we've got some fun stuff to talk about.
We've got some amazing stuff to talk about. I hope you all took the poll as well as you entered the room, so you could give us your impression of what the best part of the Big Phone Home 2 was, because that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
Lou, what was your favorite part? What was your favorite part of the Big Phone Home 2?
Man, I haven't been able to answer that question, really.
No?
No, man, because there was a lot of stuff that happened. I haven't even looked over it. I haven't started looking over what we said or what was said, but there was a lot of stuff that went down. But, gosh.
That's a bit of an understatement.
I mean, yeah.
What was your answer? It was all a blur.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, yeah, I think I got the most action after the Robert Salas panel. Like, as far as people hitting me up like, whoa, what happened? And then I also loved the Lou Elizondo panel with the women on the first day. That was really, really cool. So
I was really excited about the interview segment with Daniel Sheehan when he admitted that he didn't have any kind of non-disclosure agreements, and he just told a bunch of secrets about seeing pictures of UFOs and the alien extraterrestrial writing, and very matter of fact, like, these are off-world coming from the backside of the moon. I did not expect that coming from Daniel Sheehan.
Yeah, the problem is we didn't have enough room to sort of push back on those, really. Right. Like, because there was so much to be said. Like, because there was the Contact in the Desert conference where they had the Sheehan on a panel, and so it was like, they were talking about the objects over nuclear bases. And this guy's saying, well, it could be U.S. tech. Like, if they were going to do it, they would test it on our own facilities. And Danny goes, oh, that's bullshit. And he goes, well, why is that bullshit? Like, it was a really, really tense moment. I didn't get to see the rest of it, but it was like, but it's true. Like, we got to ask those questions, right?
Absolutely. No, we have to ask those questions. Like, I was just talking to Carl before the show, and I was like, either Danny Sheehan is the biggest bullshitter of all time or the biggest whistleblower of all time. Yeah.
Well, would he be a whistleblower, though? Because he's not part of the government. It's not like he was under an NDA. He's just a guy that went into a room and looked at a whole bunch of the Blue Book files under a secret order from a judge.
Yeah, some sort of a secret program that they're using for disinformation. It's very elaborate and unnecessary because it's pretty amazing. It seems more like he's a nonconformist and a rogue, and he likes to rattle the cage. That's what it seems like to me.
Oh, for sure.
Indeed.
He does.
Michael, do we have a card today?
We do have a card today. For those of you who have been following the Singularity Lab for a hot minute, you'll know that at the beginning of every show, we do a logical fallacy or a cognitive bias. And I'm going to pull a card right now. All right. Okay. This is a logical fallacy. It's called begging the question, a circular argument in which the conclusion is included in the premise. Example, the word of Zorbo the Great is flawless and perfect. We know this because it says so in the great and infallible book of Zorbo's best and most truest things that are definitely true. It should not ever be questioned. This is it's so funny. Every time I pull one of these cards, it's so perfect because it like.
Well, the question.
For example, Danny Sheehan, right? He's like, we're way past whether or not we're being visited by aliens. We're way past that. Don't even question that. Just listen to what I'm saying now. Yeah. And I think that it's like, wait, we're way past that. We can't question it because we're way past it. Like that doesn't
well, I
seem...
mean, that's what Robert Salas was kind of saying too, but he was a lot more impatient with it. He's just got zero room for BS because he's the guy who was supposed to press the button. The button, and he's saying, if I could, I couldn't because these things shut him off. So what are we talking about here? Like he's upset. Maybe we'll talk to Alejandro Rojas about it.
The problem is people jump to the conclusion and then they get mad when you don't agree with their presumption. And it's like, that's not, you can't start at first principles that way, right? You can't start at the beginning. We all have to start where we agree and then we can build on that. Otherwise, it's just UFO Twitter.
Right.
It's as simple as open-mindedness instead of just constantly looking through the goggles that you've always looked through and the one perception that you've always had and one opinion. Looking at things from multiple angles, you're going to see it from all different angles, and it might look different to everybody looking at the same truth. So.
And it's good. It's good to do that. It's good to. We love you, UFO Twitter. Don't be mad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we need to question all parts of it, all parts of it. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're right. I mean, if it's written in a book, for some reason, it seems like, it's almost like the Wilson Davis notes. I was going to say, what could we compare?
There you go.
Is it the Bible? Is it the Wilson Davis notes? I mean, what other category, if this book says that it's real, could we throw in there like that?
Well, we could throw in scriptures from different religions all day long, right? Because you can't question.
Well, that kind of fits under Bible. That's I'm throwing Bible in there, and that counts every other religious book in the world.
Sure.
Okay. Luis is like Bible. I'm like the joy of cooking.
Joy of cooking. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, if you follow those recipes, I think they'd be pretty awesome.
Pretty amazing. I mean, it's French cooking.
The old school. No, I don't think. I can't remember.
Is it not?
I don't.
That's French. Anywho, we've got an amazing show for you guys today. So in the second hour, Rather Be Squidding is going to join us, and we're going to be going over what Carl meticulously went through today and found some timestamps of some of the best moments.
Excellent. Please pass those on, Carl.
I'll share them with you. And so we're going to go through some of those. We're going to have some fun kicking back on the weekend's experience. But before we do that, we've got an amazing guest who was on the Big Phone Home the first time. And we're thrilled to have him back here to kind of help us recap and go through his what he's been up to. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and he's also one of my first guests on my show and an inspiration to why I even started my channel.
I did not know that. Oh yes, no, I did know that. That's right.
Alejandro, he was my second. Martin Willis was my first, but Martin Willis and Alejandro Rojas are like best buds. So I almost consider I had them both on at the same time. I had Alejandro in spirit and Martin in physical form. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. So great to talk to you guys. I'm on my phone and apologize for that, but I did that on purpose because I kind of want to walk you around our set and give you kind of a behind
because he's got the International UFO Congress happening right now. And as soon as I'm done with this, I got to go back over and see the speakers, because what I really, really love about the conference this year is that you can select whoever you want to talk to. You don't have to pay for the whole conference. And there are a lot of ways to interact if you do pay for the whole conference, which we recommend you do. But if you've only got the funds for, you say, a Lou Elizondo interview, or let's go over some of the other guests. I know NK Kronda is going to be there, and she was there for the phone. She blew my mind. What a wonderful woman. So Alejandro, give us a tour. The floor is yours, sir. I mean, what do you want to talk about?
I'll start off with a tour, and then I'm more than happy to chime in on any of the controversial stuff you guys were talking about.
Yay! Yeah. Please, it would be great.
Thoughts on some of that. But I'm no authority on anything, just how I see things, and appreciate that. I certainly, and everybody absolutely has a right to an opinion, but. Let's start off with
excellent
Congress. So it actually started today with the film festival. So what we're doing right now is showing all of the films that have been submitted, and that we show those all days, and the judges watch them. And actually, we choose the winners by tonight, but we won't reveal those until Saturday during the award center, which is ceremony, which is actually free. So we broadcast that on Facebook and YouTube for free Saturday night, so people can watch that. We also do some kind of in-between talks, shows where we talk about what's gone on for the day. Karen shares some of the products that we have, things like that. And that's all done right here on the set. So, oh yeah, I tried to do this before. You can't like switch the camera. So I'll just kind of go like this.
Yeah.
So this is the set. Is this where all the interviews are happening? This is like the main stage?
Yeah, so this is kind of the main stage. So this used to be kind of my stepdaughter's dance room. It was that we transformed into that, and now it's a UFO studio. So we
love
actually,
it.
You can see it here. What's exciting about this is right behind me, one of our great talks is going to be Fife Symington being interviewed by Politico's Brian Bender. We're in Arizona, so both of them are coming to the house, and we're going to film it right here on our set. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
So in case you guys don't know, because Michael's new to ufology, so he might not know the name Fife Symington, but Fife Symington was the governor of Arizona during the Phoenix Lights, and he'd come out and he'd publicly sort of made fun of the entire incident. And then, you know, when he was, well, after he went to jail and then got released from jail, he came out and he was like, yeah, no, actually, I saw it. It was real. And so that was really cool. Go on, Alejandro.
Yeah, in fact, we have, I think, exclusively on Open Minds on our YouTube, the clip where he first admitted to that. And he did this to James Fox. So James Fox was doing one of his great documentaries. I think it was Out of the Blue. He came to Phoenix, talked to some of the Phoenix Lights witnesses, and he said, what do you guys think of what Fife Symington did? Kind of making fun of you all. And he recorded what they said. Obviously, they weren't happy about it. Right. He then got into his interview with Symington and said, well, I want to play you what some of these guys said. And they played it. And you can see in the video, he's kind of getting emotional. And James said, you know, he was really getting kind of choked up. And then he said, well, you know, I didn't mean to make fun of it. I took it very seriously. In fact, I saw it. He went on to say he had escalated the issue to the Pentagon, that the Pentagon knew about it. It was kind of interesting, and he just didn't know what to do. And, you know, this is why we have at least the cover-up that we can prove is there, which is just kind of blowing the issue off. Right. Nick Pope says it well when he called it kind of dirty tricks and spin, where he's, you know, and Fife Symington used this, which is, I don't know how to answer these questions. I don't want to answer these questions. It's easier for me just to make fun of it. The media then jumps on board and makes fun of it with me, and I no longer have to answer these questions, even though I know something extraordinary happened. Yeah. And you know, it's an easy way that people can deal with the situation, and they have for decades now.
Can I ask you?
Say, hey, we actually do take it seriously, and that's caused kind of all this furor.
Can I ask you how, speaking of media, how did you feel about how Showtime portrayed Fife Symington in that Showtime series?
I heard they portrayed him pretty negatively, but you know what? To be honest, I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
Just swamped with work and
everything. No, I get it.
And so, yeah, I haven't even been able to see that series yet. From what I understand, I'm not missing a whole lot. Not to say that it's terrible, just that stuff that those of us who have been into this stuff for a long time already know about.
Yeah. Well, they were kind of suggesting basically that it was one of these advanced triangle shaped balloons, you know, these massive silent balloon crafts that that there are designs for that we've seen. And that, you know, the governor is basically they sort of portrayed like they didn't say it, but they sort of hinted at that part of his, you know, agreement of getting out of jail would be to sort of quell this or not quell it, but add to the fire in that it's, hey, they're not talking about our top secret balloon. Let's keep them talking about UFOs sort of thing. So, I mean, that's sort of what I took from it. I know Michael's seen it.
I don't think that fits what we've seen though.
Right.
The issue. And I think you'll see that, first of all, if you look at that original interview or any other interview or, from the discussion that he's going to have with Brian here, I think you'll see that doesn't fit. I think the simple answer is usually the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
He was a governor. He had this big UFO thing going on. He wanted the monkey off his back.
He was also trying to get reelected, right?
And it was done. Right. Yeah, there was, of course, that sort of concern going on. So, yeah, I don't think there's any real giant mystery, that I think what is interesting, though, the other problem is kind of the balloon theory, I think, at least from the witnesses I've talked to. I was surprised when I moved out to Arizona how many people saw this thing. So right when I moved out, the first time I was getting a haircut, someone was asking me, why did you move to Arizona? And I told them I actually moved to join this company, Open Minds, and write about UFOs. And they were like, oh, yeah, I saw the Phoenix lights. My dad called me and told me to go outside and look. So I was like, your dad saw it? And she was like, yeah, my whole family saw it because he called everybody. And we all went outside and saw these things. The description Fife gives and others, in the 90s, a balloon as large as what they're talking about. There are, let alone the balloons that they're building now are even more delta shaped, like an actual triangular kind of shape rather than chevron. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like that would fit. Certainly it's possible, I suppose. But yeah, it is a great sighting.
Do you have any hypotheses, Alejandro, based on what the corroborating witnesses saw and having written about it for so long and put it together? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a great question because I have done a lot of research. And in fact, I've put together enough information where I was going to write a booklet because I don't think the full story's gotten out there. And the full story is interesting because, as usual, the UFO community didn't do the best job with investigating this case. And there was a lot of misinformation put out by UFO researchers at the time. At the same time, of course, I think that the debunkers were a little too simplistic and that there were A-10s in the area flying back and forth between kind of the area where it started and Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix. But an A-10 is a pretty loud plane. I mean, they're relatively quiet, but if you've heard an A-10, you're not going to miss that is a military aircraft. It is loud. I mean, F-16s, F-17s, F-18s, they're extremely loud, but this thing's still really loud. So it's not going to be silent, and there was only one witness who actually did get a telescope, took a look, and then said, oh, okay, I guess that was A-10s. And a lot of the skeptics say, look, that's evidence that the whole thing was A-10s.
Right.
But the other witnesses don't describe that sort of thing. I mean, the other witnesses, some of whom are very credible, saying this thing slowly, silently goes over their head. That's really mysterious. So the number of witnesses, the quality of the witnesses, that's what makes this one really mysterious, I think. Although I do believe a lot of those witnesses, if not the majority, did see flares over Goldwater, late in the night at around 9 or 10 p.m. I do not think that was a response to the UFO sightings. It could have been, but I doubt it. It's just Goldwater is really, really active. And really, when I moved out here, I thought, how can people see flares in Phoenix, nearly 80 miles away out there in Goldwater?
Right.
But they can. I videotaped them. I used to drive from the offices in Open Minds out south, and I would see them fairly often. And they're bright. You don't see smoke. They don't look like they're falling because they fall so slowly. I've taken several videos that I've put online to say, look, this is exact, and they look exactly like many of the photos and pictures that some of people are posting are these flares. So certainly flares is part of it, but I do think kind of there is a mystery there.
Well, I remember the one testimony that really sticks out to my mind, or in my mind, is that kid who was describing what it looked like. He's like, if you're looking down the street on a hot day and you see the distortion in the street because of the heat that's coming off of it and it looks wavy, he's like, that's what it looked like when you looked at it. And I was like, man, that kid is not lying. Like, he was confused by it and he lived in the area. I'm curious to know, like, it would be I mean, has anybody done this? I feel like they've done it through television shows with a handful of people, but has anybody had a massive gathering of everyone that witnessed it and sort of just had a Phoenix Lights convention? I feel like that itself would fill a convention floor for at least a day and sort of get everybody's, the purpose of it to get everybody's eyewitness testimony, their families, corroborate all these things, see who may have some footage or pictures that maybe has just never surfaced or been sitting in a shoebox for a real long time.
I feel like you could do a whole documentary just on the.
I feel like, yeah.
Well, there have been these sort of gatherings early on, which I think are helpful early on. At this point, I don't think it's helpful. There's been a lot of tainting of the story. There's been a lot of people having very strong feelings about what it was, even people who weren't witnesses who have tainted kind of the witnesses and what they've seen. So
there's also a lot of room for fake stuff to be thrown in there too.
That and all of this has caused a lot of infighting, ton of infighting, which you see, of course, all with every major sighting pretty much.
Yeah.
So it couldn't be done now, I don't think, but it was done in the past. And I think that was interesting. And you can find footage in some places. I think even James Fox included some in Out of the Blue of some of those original meetings. So I'm really excited to hear from Fife, though, that's for sure, because he has not talked to really anybody in the know. He's gone to mainstream media, talked about it, but he hasn't really talked to a UFO conference or UFO researchers so much. And especially in this sort of setting with, Brian Benner, who's very knowledgeable on this topic now, especially at least with what the government has going on. I think this is going to be an extraordinary conversation.
And what time is that conversation, Alejandro?
That is tomorrow at 4. Fife's tomorrow at 4, hon? 4:30. What? Fife? Let me show you some of the brain to the headquarters. And probably the biggest VIP.
Who do we got? Hey! Hi! So we were asking Alejandro when this Fife Simonton interview is so we could tell everybody.
Well, yeah, tell everybody far and wide because, I need more people in my house here. Yeah, 4:30 tomorrow, and you can still buy tickets at www.ufocongress.com. You can buy the whole thing for $119 or one for $12.99.
Let's talk about that real quick. Like, just in the world. Hello, in the world. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, hey. Yeah. My name is Jason Cordova. I am cousin of Alejandro Rojas.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, paranormal research buddy.
My protege.
Karen, real quick, I wanted to say, and by the way, Karen, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi,
this is great.
And I've gotten to this subject about, 10 years ago. I went to my first UFO conference in February of 2011, which was the International UFO Congress. And now 2 years later, I'm running the darn thing.
You're running. Oh, boy. Yeah. And, well, at least you got your husband helping you with it, right?
Well, I do most of it. He helps to feed them.
Yeah.
Wait. What does he do? What does he actually do?
The front man, because I
was able to help more last year.
Yeah. Time job, and this is basically my time job.
Yeah, no, I feel your pain, my lady. I just got done doing it too with Michael and all these guys. So yeah, we know the pain. But I wanted to talk about this because in the days of these conferences that charge $300-400, $500, I've seen sometimes, like it's really nice that you guys are doing everything in your power to make it as affordable as possible. $119 is very, very reasonable. Honestly, I'm not just saying that because I know Alejandro or, I'm trying to pump up his stuff. Like that is a very reasonable cost. And for that, can you just explain to people exactly what they get for $119?
Sure. We have 24 lectures and panels. Some of the speakers, if you're not familiar with it, Nick Pope, Lou Elizondo, Abby Loeb, Brian Bender with Fife Simonton, Kathleen Martin, Lee Spiegel, Yvonne
Lee
Smith,
Spiegel,
Mark D'Antonio, Ben Hansen, Katie Grabowski, just tons and tons of speakers, just like a regular conference. The only difference is, when it's not in person, you don't have the, the airline costs and the hotel room costs for all the speakers,
Right.
banquet costs. So we're able to make it a lot, more affordable this way. Of course, and we always try to make it as affordable as we can. We usually don't even charge over the price that we have to pay for our banquet.
Right.
Hotels charge a lot of money for the food, and we just want people to show up. So, a
great thing about this one too is that they get access to the app for 2 weeks, where not only can they watch the videos of the any presentation they miss, they can communicate and still interact with the community in there for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So if you're at a real conference, you oversleep and you miss the first conference or the lecture, you're out of luck, or you have to go buy the DVD. This way you don't have to do that because you have 2 more weeks to watch it.
That's awesome. And so then what happens after 2 weeks? Does it get archived?
Well, after 2 weeks, about 6 weeks later, like that, it'll be put up on our YouTube channel, which is a membership. For the most recent year, it's a membership that we put up months after the conference is over, and then
but that's a membership to an entire channel with thousands of videos.
Right. Level, you get all the videos from 2011 until 2021.
Wow, and I tell you, it's an amazing archive that Alejandro has put together and that you have also put together. So congratulations. I see you guys are in the middle of it, so I don't want to take any more of your time unless you, of course, want to hang out. I'm not kicking anybody off. And it's not even my show. I feel like I've taken over. Michael, I'm sorry.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
But yeah, so the conferences started
back to work.
Yep. The conference started today, correct?
Today was the film festival started, and then lectures start tomorrow afternoon and go through Sunday evening, essentially.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit, because you said you kind of wanted to comment on what we were talking about earlier. So I am curious. What in particular did we say that you were sort of like, I got an opinion on that one?
Well, I don't know. I've got an opinion about all the things that you talked about, I guess. But it was just funny that you mentioned UFO Twitter.
Yeah.
But let me think. Oh, the foregone conclusions, is a very tough one. And I think that's what's been kind of difficult and hard. Oh, this is her home shopping network with stuff.
Ooh.
Let me move her stuff out of the way. But in that, I don't know, it's been hard for me. I've been a little disappointed in the UFO community, to be completely honest. I think that the UFO community has not taken advantage of this opportunity that has been laid at their feet as much as I thought they would. I thought that, and Lou Elizondo had this experience, and I think it's been paralleled in that, Elizondo thought he would come out and be kind of a champion to the UFO field, to champion getting more information out. But instead, he was attacked. He was just an avalanche of negative information. I felt it just from reporting on it, not kind of denigrating him for some reason. People felt that was necessary. And then look what's happened. This was a whole grand plan by really Chris Mellon and Lou to get to where we are now and cracking open the egg and getting the mainstream to take this seriously, which they've done. And that is what I think has really been exciting. I had hoped, kind of the UFO community would kind of jump on. And to be honest, UFO Twitter, which I think is very mirrors kind of the general public. I was jokingly calling it the proletariat of the UFO community, but it's kind of representative, I think, of the field overall, in that there's been a real double down on the conspiracy and the crazy. And as opposed to really kind of embracing mainstream science and media getting more involved with this. I think that the biggest strides have not been from the UFO field, and I don't expect anything too exciting from the UFO field. The biggest strides have been made by mainstream, I think, journalists and scientists are starting to get involved. And I think, there's a lot of people, I think you all have seen that. I mean, you all have, I think, taken picked up this energy in the last few years that has happened and kind of created kind of this new front of and this new world of being interested in the really credible information and trying to integrate, mainstream and without, I think that a lot of UFO people feel like they're what their knowledge is esoteric and they want to keep it that way. They want to be the only ones in the know. In the meanwhile, they're fighting against elitism while they're perpetrating that sort of thing. And I think that's what's really been difficult and for me. So I think it's great what the public is doing and how the public is getting interested. And I think it's really interesting to watch some of these mainstream scientists be challenged by their peers and kind of have to bat this stuff back and forth and very carefully approach some of it. I think that the proliferation of the idea of techno-signatures, which are ancient alien artifacts, it's now okay for SETI to say, oh, we're going to look for techno-signatures. But meanwhile, shirk any of these other kind of connotations of looking for aliens, which is exactly, of course, what they do. So I think it's a really interesting time. And I look forward to that. I just hope that, I would hope, I don't think it's going to happen, but the UFO field will kind of open up a little bit. There are some researchers who are doing some incredible stuff. John Greenwald, of course, is just killing it. I think he's getting some groundbreaking information out on every few days.
I mean, just today he had a great article drop.
Yeah, total bomb drop. So really good stuff. So I look forward for that going on. I know that Brian is still working on some stuff. We posted a video at the UFO Congress of Brian Bender speaking at the Scottsdale Library just a couple weeks ago. And it was great stuff. It was like, here's my perspective of somebody kind of embedded in the Hill and someone who works in defense. I heard about UFOs. I don't care if they're real or not. It's a story. So I researched it. I asked around. Here's what I found. Here's what I'm pursuing. And here's what I'm interested in. And I think what he found is not too surprising for what but it's, I think, educational, and people like John Alexander who have been telling us this sort of thing, or even Nick Pope, who have been in the government and know the government and have been trying to tell the UFO community how it's going on in there, have been kind of told, you don't know what you're talking about. Whereas me, who has no clue how the government works, I know better than you. And I think that that's unfortunate. We need to listen to authorities and people who do know, and base our facts and information off of that.
I think that's such an important point that you brought up, and I appreciate you kind of circling back around to it, because this idea of the conclusion being installed in the premise and this sort of circular logic where we go, well, we see a UFO equals alien, and then, case closed, whereas that's not really what you do, right? That's not what a UFO researcher does. You're looking to investigate deeply and figure out what the truth is, as opposed to what, this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy where we just kind of, ensure everybody's happy with the results that we wanted in the first place. I think that's a big problem. And I think that's just not.
Great point. Yeah. And that's actually what I meant to comment on, or when I began this kind of little rant, is that, I was hopeful that the UFO community would be those people to clarify all of that, to say UFOs are not aliens. They're totally different things. That, UFOs are an unknown, and that's
right. It's an unknown, exactly.
Step. And that's a great step for mainstream to accept that there's an unknown phenomena. That's a wonderful place to be in. But unfortunately, the UFO community hasn't been happy with that, and they want to talk Roswell and aliens and all of this sort of thing. And who knows, maybe we'll be able to get some more juicy sort of information like that. I think this whole Wilson documents thing, it's not the right time, and it's not the sort of research that we need to be doing right now. A dubious document that nobody involved with that document will come and, fess up and say, I was a part of this and this was real. Not one of the characters that were involved with any of that stepping forward. In fact, several denying that what's being stated in those documents. That's, we're past the times of needing these dubious documents and to base all of what we believe off of these things that cannot be substantiated. Now we're at a place where there's a lot that is substantiated. This is a really interesting aspect. I think we have, 1952 in Washington, D.C. We have Iran. We have government documents in the 70s and 80s showing these objects being seen, jets being scrambled. They play a cat and mouse game with the jets, fly away at extreme speeds, just like they did at Nimitz. That is a pattern. That is what the military is dealing with. What the heck are those things? That's a great question. And that's where we need to start and push science. And it'd be great if we were all on board to kind of have more of a singular focus on that, as opposed to saying, oh yeah, you think UFOs are real, but you're still not telling us about the aliens. You still haven't even said anything about the Zeta Reticulans or the Arcturians. It's sort of, it's frustrating, especially in this time where very easily this whole subject could get swept under the rug again, where at least we've made it to another plateau where it's a legit question. But, if we're not going to push forward kind of credible inquiry, then it will sink back to where it was, where it'll just be seen as fringe again.
Right. Yeah, that's a scary proposition. I mean, like, I agree with everything you just said. For me, the Wilson Davis documents, I was like, this might be controversial for some people, but I don't care. I don't care because there's no way for me to really tell if this is true. What? I don't care who said what and what in what meaning and what setting on what television program in what context. Like, can I put it on the desk of a senator? Can I put it on the desk of a congressman and convince them, hey, look at this with that story? The answer is no. Then I can't use it, at least not right now. And I understand what you're saying. Like, it's so, but we're struggling with this right now, right? Because there is a part of the community that really feels left out of the story, this experiencer part of the community. And I genuinely empathize with that part of the community because I myself have had an experience, and it's very difficult for me to just rip that experience out of everything that I am and say, well, we're never going to talk about this because it's too weird or it's not comfortable. And part of me gets upset. Like, I'm a little upset, but then I got to just bring it back and say, okay, but what does a senator understand though, Lou? Like, what are they going to get? And so, we always bring it back to the terra firma of the Nimitz, David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, these instruments, this video, the testimony, the cockpit recordings. Like, these are all really tangible, wonderful things that I can put on a senator's desk and say, I want the longer version of this. I want another camera angle of this. I want you to have public congressional hearings on this. So that way, when we can establish that really fun part of, we don't know what the hell this is, now we can figure it out. Now we could go for it, science. Have a ball. What were you going to say, Mike?
Yeah, well, I was going to agree with you. And I was going to add to that, because then we can say, now we know, we can find out who's lying and who's not. And I think that's the biggest problem in this field, is the disinformation, because you don't know who's telling the truth. You put somebody under oath where they could go to jail if they don't tell the truth, that's a different story. And I think that's what will allow us to get more clear evidence. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Bottled Water for the $10 donation. Thank you so much. I can tell you right now, if I was in that document, I wouldn't say anything either. And I see you, Luis. LOL. And then thank you so much to John Russell as well. He had two $10 super chats. Putting it on the desk of a senator is the first step, but the experiencers will have a voice at some point. And I think that's
definitely will.
Yeah.
And he also had another $10 donation that says the time for patience is past. And I get like we had Robert Salas on yesterday, right?
Wait, real quick, before you go into that, Luis, I want to. This is a great question. This is a great question from Susie. Will someone please define experiencer? What does it mean? Is this definition consistent? I'm so with that question.
I'll let Alejandro start that.
Yeah, what do you think on that, Alejandro?
Yeah, I mean, here's how that evolved. Is that the word was abduction, alien abduction, people who have been abducted. Then we came across kind of this era of where, and I would even say maybe it was driven by kind of a Stephen Greer push, and Stephen Greer, of course, being very upset when anybody says anything bad about aliens, that we don't get it, aliens are the greatest and the best. And a lot of people were saying, kind of jumping on board with that we shouldn't be having the abduction as kind of a negative connotation. But of course, what these people are claiming to experience is being stolen out of the middle of the night or out of their cars and having medical kind of experimentation done on them, which I don't know, that's not a very positive experience. I wouldn't feel positive about that. But, so they decided to use the word experiencer, and it became kind of, okay, everybody will start to use the word experiencer out of respect for those who feel that they're having positive experiences. It's kind of grown a little bit, though, in that experiencers, I think for the layman, means anybody who's had any sort of experience, whether that be with aliens or UFOs.
Right.
And so now it's kind of anybody, it's kind of evolved to that. So I find it experience with a UFO, or if you feel that you haven't had an experience with an alien.
What about a sighting? What about a UFO sighting? So a UFO sighting is different than somebody who is an experiencer, right?
Is it? I mean, I feel, for me, when I say experience, I've had a sighting. It was a close encounter of the second kind, if we want to get scientific about it. But for me, it was an experience like that changed my life clearly. And so I feel like I fit in the bucket of both, but UFO sighting, experiencer. I mean, I think if experiencer is almost like the word phenomena, where all of these things fit under the umbrella, and then that sort of moves the conversation forward. So it doesn't sighting, an experiencer could be abducted, an experiencer could but it doesn't connote green men when I say experiencer. For me, anyway. I mean, I could be wrong for other people.
Let's just imagine for a minute that the five of us all saw some sort of or witnessed some sort of an encounter or experience, all standing in the park one day. We're at some convention together, and we look up and have an experience. I might not actually see a physical metallic craft in the sky, but maybe Michael does from his perspective and point of view. But I go home and have all kinds of paranormal type encounters in my bedroom that night and recurring nightmares. Luis, he sees a physical craft and for some reason has some strange anomalous missing time. Kristen doesn't experience anything. She just feels like she fell asleep and then woke up later. And Alejandro, he sees the craft as an orb of light. And I mean, you get all different kinds of a soup of witness accounts. And so I don't have a problem with different people having different opinions of their experience and what defines being an experiencer, and coming at the problem and the phenomenon from multiple different angles, from the mystical and phenomenal side of things to the scientific side of things on the other end. What I have a problem with is when everybody just starts fighting about each other, and they start fighting over each other's perspectives and thinking that they're the only one that has the right point of view, when really everybody that experiences this stuff, especially in a group encounter, a lot of times comes out with weird anomalous variations to even a singular event. So I think we just need to have an open mind.
This is the tightrope we walk, though. Like, because if you go one, if you say one wrong thing on the other, the one side of the community is pissed at you. If you say one thing on the other side, the other side of the community is pissed at you. It's just like, wait a second, why can't we talk about both? I know you like, this is Alejandro's career. Like, this whole tightrope.
How does UFO Twitter even know how to act? So a new piece of information comes out. Are we supposed to dissect it and attack it and pick it all apart to find all the flaws and see if it's CGI or we're being duped or not? Or do we
talk about it?
Do we pull it up and champion it and say, this is real, and throw it? It's all of it. Everybody has to debate it from all the different angles instead of fighting about each other. That's the problem I have, is fighting over each other.
And if you would stop picking fights with UFO Blueprint, Luis, I would really appreciate it, because he's very offended.
I'm always picking fights with him. Right.
We have to respect each other's opinions and each other's experiences. And it is one thing, even though I'm over here saying, oh, I wish this and that, really a lot of people get mad. Oh, that's just hurting the field. This is hurting the field. It is what it is. The public is going to interact the way they interact. People are going to react the way they react. it is what it is. And so when you're deciding what you want to do, that's all you can control, and then you can tackle. And I do want to touch on the experiencer thing, experiencers feeling left out. I have a friend, Dean Alioto, who's working on an excellent documentary on this, and he's doing it very modern and real. And I think it's going to be the best thing on this topic, if you ask me, because he takes it from the credible, here's what's going on right now, and here's how this whole topic has evolved and become serious. And then starting to kind of slide in these lawyers, police officers, doctors, people who are very credible, that are kind of leaders of the community, saying they've had experiences with the drivers of these things. So I think that's the way you've got to evolve it, is that, and that comment that it's past the time for patience, it's never past the time for patience. Right. I was good friends with Stanton Friedman before him, good friends with others who have lived their entire lives researching this topic and now have passed away before it's completely opened up. Yeah. Decades and decades of people. And what did they need to have? An abundance of patience and just keep doing the research and sharing information to get to this point. And that's what experiencers need to do. And it may be hard to hear that, but we're on the precipice. People are taking it more and more seriously. And not only that, what I think is interesting is these credible people are feeling more and more comfortable to share their experiences. Right. And as that happens, heads will turn. People will start to look at the experiencer phenomena, or the abduction phenomena, or these sort of kind of ideas, and start to tackle what's going on there. So I think it's going to take time. It does take patience, but it will get there. And if you're patient, and if you are cooperative and share your information as opposed to being hateful and demanding, you're gonna get way, way further. I mean, take, for example, Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and the whole group. Were they out there bashing anybody? No. Lou Elizondo took on a lot of heat. Is he out there bashing the people who did this to him? No. He's going on their podcast now. He's talking to them and he's building bridges. That's the sort of thing that's going to move everything forward. So it does take patience, but no, you're not alone. And that you do have colleagues, you do have friends and other people who are working for you towards the same thing. And it'll come.
Well, I think that's it, right? Like leaning on the community that is there. And NK Kronda also had a great suggestion, which was seek help, but make sure it's professional help. Like it's licensed therapists that will actually not put ideas in your head, but genuinely work you through this trauma.
In the meantime,
she'll be speaking at her conference.
No, I know she's brilliant. And it's like, how do we? It's almost like trying to explain to a kid on the bench, like it's just you can't start. It's not time for you to start yet. It's almost like you're JV, you're a freshman here. You're really good, but you need to play another year before you could start for varsity. And it's almost feels like trying to explain that to somebody. And they're like, no, I'm ready now. We need to talk about this now. And it's hard to hold back because when we had Robert Salas on yesterday, I put him on a panel with Lou Elizondo, and I had no idea that Robert Salas and Lou Elizondo did not like each other. I had no clue. Or Robert doesn't like him. It's not the other way around, because I talked to Lou after, and he was like, look, I'm a big boy. I know Robert. I was like, I had no clue. I wanted to talk about the nuclear aspect of it.
Robert doesn't like me anymore, and I didn't. Yeah. We're friends. I've known him for
I don't think he likes me anymore now either. We just met.
Yeah. He's angry. And, I can see why he's frustrated after all this time. And other people, kind of get in the spotlight and him not being able to share his vast knowledge and his extremely incredible experience. So I get it. But again, is Robert going to get further with patience or being angry and lashing out on everyone? I think the patience is going to work.
Yeah,
better.
but he's done. I mean, he's just over it. He's not going to change. Robert Salas is not going to change. I promise you that. And I just met him yesterday, and I promise you he will not change.
Yeah, no, that's not happening. That's not happening.
From Bottled Water, thank you so much for the $10 donation. Real talk, I've seen 4 UFOs now. One day you can have me on, and I'll tell you about the craziest one. We'll definitely do that. I think we talked to Bottled Water on
Twitter space.
Yeah, Twitter space the other day. Seeing a UFO is life-changing. It's like seeing a bear in the wild the first time. It's real now. And if I remember correctly, Bottled Water is a military veteran. You can correct me on that.
Well,
Water.
according to him, I don't know. I haven't seen his credentials, but I'm assuming he's not lying. He wasn't making wild claims. He was saying some pretty reasonable things. So
yeah. I think so as well.
I gotta run to do the next movie. This is probably a good time for me to run anyway.
Alejandro, thank you so much for being here. Good luck in the conference. We're going to put the links in the description below. If there's anything else we could do to help, don't hesitate.
Just if every 5 minutes you could say the URL to help people go to ufocongress.com, and if you want to add it even more than that and put a scroller on the bottom,
we could definitely do that. I'll work on that right now. I get the banner going. Actually, our man Rather is coming in the next hour. He usually does that, but I can do it.
So if people want to get a ticket, if they want to sign up, they go to ufocongress.com. Okay,
ufocongress.com. You got it. I'm making the banner right now. Thank you, Alejandro Rojas.
Thanks, guys.
Can't wait to talk to you again because, gosh, we didn't even talk about the article with Brian Bender. But yeah, good luck. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alejandro. Aaron Desaria says, "Hey, at least Blueprint keeps coming back despite disagreeing with just about everything. That takes patience or self-esteem issues or weird masochistic kink."
It's the ufocongress.com, right?
Yes. Let me just check that. Yes. I believe it is. Yes. All right. We got Rather here coming in a few minutes. We're going to be recapping the Big Phone Home 2, and we put a poll out, and we're going to be sharing the results of that poll. I'll go ahead and pull that up right now because I thought it was pretty fun. All right. So the poll was, what was the best part of the Big Phone Home 2? The least favorite answer was Blumenthal grilling Avi Loeb. Second is it's switched. All right, so the third favorite is the third favorite is leaving Tommy Zito on hold. The second favorite is Danny Sheehan speaking alien, and the favorite was What's This? The Lou Elizondo Show. If you weren't here yesterday, it was a wild time, and it was pretty fun. Carl, did you share what your favorite was? What your favorite part of this?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun, mostly because I put in a super chat and asked a question during the show for Danny Sheehan. Because I heard like a week prior or something like that, he was interviewed on a different show, and I heard him admit there, he's like, I've never signed any non-disclosure agreements. I've always followed a rule to never get involved in top secret clearances or anything like that. I always felt like I could find my way into situations to know the truth and not be hogtied about what I could say and couldn't say. So I thought, if I ever get the opportunity, I'm going to ask him. Nobody's ever really said, well, what have you seen? You've been talking to all these people who seem to know, and you're involved in it, looking at evidence. So if you can talk, so I threw that question out there in the super chat, and it just sort of unfolded for like an hour with follow-up questions to the point to where he's like, yeah, I was in the basement at the Library of Congress on a newly constructed building, down this basement, down the hallway in a secret room with a bunch of suits, almost like he didn't say that Men in Black, but that's like what I visualized, right? Guarding the door. And he goes in there to a bunch of folding tables with green file boxes full of like evidence boxes full of stuff, and he describes seeing high definition photographs of UFO crashes, and even drew out right there live on the Big Phone Home alien symbols that he saw in the pictures, and everything. It was pretty wild. So I thought that was one of my favorite parts.
I've actually got that clip set up, and we're going to play it here in a second.
You just don't expect that from somebody who's like suing the Pentagon and things, it's like.
Well, real quick, Susie had a comment on here before that. She said she wants to hear more from peeps like Robert Salas. I'm with you.
Yeah,
we want Robert Salas back on the show, but just by himself. Like, he can't be on a panel, and I think we can agree there, because he needs the attention.
And I invited him back, and he's like, "Well, you're gonna have to ask me." I was like, "I thought
just did." Yeah, that's okay. We'll hit him up. I'm trying to let him.
Hey, dude,
you know,
I have grandparents. I like curmudgeons.
Well, I mean, look, if we can handle Jazz Shaw, we can handle Robert Salas. Am I right?
You have just said put Jazz with him.
I mean, like, thank God we have Jazz on the show, because that's sometimes that's
a resident.
Like, it's a great way to sort of practice for moments like that.
I got the feeling like maybe he didn't realize it was a panel. And so he thought maybe
there's no way. I told him. I told told him, hey, you're on a panel with Lou Elizondo and Ross Coulthart and Rich Hoffman. Like, it's going to be.
Oh, you told him, but he knew specifically he was going to be on with Lou?
Yes, absolutely he did. Why would I not have told him that? You know what I mean? Like, I thought it would have been exciting for him. Hey, we're going to talk about the nuclear angle of this. But, he's I want to get into why he's angry and why he's upset, and I think part of the reason is like, well, because he said it. I mean, he was like, I broke my NDA. He straight up said that. Like, and I think that was sort of a challenge to Lou. Like, I've talked about things I'm not allowed to talk about, and I'm willing to go in front of Congress and push it and yell if I have to. And I think that's what he's expecting from Lou, but it's like, the dude's got a pension. I mean, DJ was talking about this the other day, the classification of pension that Lou Elizondo gets, and the classification that he gave up to start talking about this specifically. Right. It's like, dude, how much more does the guy have to sacrifice? Even though I told him, I think we need a Nelson Mandela. We need someone who's going to go to jail for this. Like, we need someone who will break the NDA and go to prison and make basically a martyr of themselves.
I don't think anybody's going to do that, but I
don't think so either.
I do think that congressional hearings and putting people under oath is the way to go.
For sure.
And Saba Nur, thank you so much for the $19.99 donation. Shouldn't the community focus on evidence that can be proven from facts? I'm worried there is a tyranny of the minority with people claiming vast conspiracies because they feel it's true. That's exactly what let's see if we can get a zoom here. Begging the question is a logical fallacy, a circular argument in which the conclusion is already included in the premise. You're absolutely right. We need to stop the shenanigans when it comes to assuming we know the answers. It's unidentified for a freaking reason. Let's start there, ladies and gentlemen.
All I can say, maybe to pose an alternative argument to that thought just a little bit, is that you might be searching for a particular type of evidence down a particular avenue, trying to use science. And then when you become an experiencer on accident, unexpectedly yourself, all that flies out the window and you feel like and it doesn't matter what anybody else is trying to tell you that we should follow some other evidence. You've had some sort of a phenomenon encounter that you can't explain that upends even what you expected. And so I just want to throw that out there for people who are experiencers that might feel trounced a little bit by that, because they usually don't want what happened to them when it does happen sometimes. And so when it does occur, it's not what they're expecting scientifically either, and they have to face that. It's a fact for them now. So I just want to throw that out there.
No, and I appreciate that, and I respect that. And I guess what I would say to that is, when I was a kid, I experienced some trauma, and I shared some of this on the show the other day. And now the trauma I experienced is not the same trauma my father experienced, the same trauma my mother experienced, the same trauma my sister experienced, the same trauma. So you made the point earlier about how we could all have the same experience and walk away with a different psychological interpretation of that experience. And just because it's my experience doesn't mean it has to be your experience.
But you know what's cool, I think, about your experience, Michael? A positive that I think I just from watching you and sort of learning who you are, especially through Facebook and stuff. We're not neighbors or anything. We've never met in actual life, which is crazy.
Wild.
But I feel like because of your experience, you're a great dad. It's almost like you found the perfect middle and you pass something different on to a generation that will never, I don't think any one of your children's children will have issues like that. Knock on wood, it's possible, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, my wife and I always joke that, like, do you screw your children up by not traumatizing them?
Right. No, that's
like,
a good
my
question.
trauma made me a better human.
Speaking of better humans, before we get to Rather Be Squidding, who's patiently waiting in the back, we're almost doing a Tommy Zito to him. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, he's like, hey, look at him back there. Let's hear a little message from our sponsor.
Do you want to know about the future? I do, and I know you do too. That's why we do what we do, right here at the Singularity Lab, just for you. Do you want to know about stories about breaking technology? Science? Look right here, I'm looking at my sheet. Marty did it. Why can't you? Remember, this is a public access channel. We rely on your donations, so just hit the Patreon. So we can continue to bring you updated science and technology, breaking news every single day.
So
Love
please
Marty.
check out the Patreon.
Hey,
Rather
guys.
That was
I
magic.
felt lonely waking up and not hanging out all day with you guys.
I felt weird actually going to my actual job. Yeah, I hear you, buddy.
Let's hit up Matthew Wright real quick at the $4.99 donut. Thank you so much, brother. The government is awesome about giving stuff back. Cool story. I forget what he's referring to.
The Black Vault, probably. I would guess.
Yeah.
Metamaterials.
Oh, right.
It sounds sarcastic. That sounded sarcastic to me.
It did definitely. So I mean, he's laughing at the end of it. I'll be right back.
Yep. Bottled water. Anytime you want to see my DD214, just ask, but ignore the 3 years of unaccounted for service. That was White Sands. Ooh, we definitely got to get you on the show, Bottled water. That'll be an interesting conversation for sure. Rather.
Yeah.
What was your favorite? What was your favorite part of the Big Phone Home 2?
Oh man, there were so many. I gotta shout out to my my guy Mick West. I thought his invited but rejected invitation coming in cameo was that's something special. It's always great when that happens.
I love how it was Mick West for you, and that was hilarious because like. Somebody was like, well, why didn't they ask Mick West to the show? And Louis like, I asked Mick West. He said no. And then, but like he got tweeted at and all of a sudden he wants to come on the show. And I was like, we were talking about him. I was going to let him come defend himself. I think that was the right thing to do.
Yeah. I think he probably expected it to be less of a kind of a discussion panel and more of a, forcing him to say the government needs disclosure kind of thing. So I understand where he's coming from, but it was great to see him.
Right. He's not interested in more data. He's not interested in petitioning the government for more data. He's interested in defending his
He's interested in shutting it
hypothesis.
down when it comes out, which, I mean, if that's where the evidence leads, I'm all for it.
Oh, no. Again, and that's what we were talking about. And that's what the whole, that's what it's so funny because I always draw one of these cards at the beginning of the Singularity Lab and every single time they're like so like ironically prudent. But that's exactly what we're talking about. It's like beginning the conversation about UFOs with extraterrestrials or like the solution is automatically embedded in the question. And it's just not like, that is not where we are. And I get people who say like, we're so far past that we need to be talking about, exopolitics at this point. And I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about exopolitics. I'm just saying you can't conclude that because we're talking about exopolitics that ET is here. You just can't make that leap.
Yeah, it's just the issue is so mysterious, right? And there's so many layers to it and there's so many possibilities.
Definitely. I think something that was refreshing about the Big Phone Home 2 is that I saw a lot of what I would consider like high level people involved in the situation very comfortably using words like ultra terrestrial and other dimensional beings and shadow entities and talking about it in a totally different format with open-minded terminology aside from just the current vernacular that's usually thrown around and been put out there. So it's like they're kind of peeling the lid off of all of it. And you've got people across the entire spectrum looking at it from a lot of different angles. And so I found that refreshing rather than it just being pigeonholed into one idea of what this could be and how we need to attack it. And that's from everybody from Dan Sheehan to Lou Elizondo all the way through kind of were very comfortable talking in those terms. And that was kind of cool.
Yeah, you had an amazing question for Elizondo. I'm really sorry we didn't get I was just swamped. It was kind of crazy during those 2 hours. Like had a question about the ancient Greeks and the secret machines and To the Stars Academy and the whole, ancient aliens, interdimensional, whatever kind of hypothesis. And I think they kind of addressed that in the beginning. Elizondo almost confirmed that to my. I know we didn't answer the question or ask the question directly, but he seemed.
Yeah, there's some really weird stuff when you actually look at it. You've got all these high-level people from Hal Puthoff to Lou Elizondo, and you got To the Stars Academy and all that, and they put out these books. And then when you really, really listen to what they're talking about in these books, there's like a ton of Greek mythology and Masonic symbolism, even in their cartoons they're releasing, and strange like occult stuff that goes clear back to, like the Minoan labyrinth and the Minotaur and strange kinds of symbolism in relation to trying to explain the phenomenon through these books. And I wanted to ask, like, what is this with, like, why are these government officials involved in this stuff and releasing this disclosure, and they're bringing up Greek mythology? Like, what is that all about?
I think there's always been this proclivity of learned statesmen to have interest in mythologies and Masonic principles, and like I think that goes back as far as statesmen go. You know what I'm saying? Like that's always been a thing.
Yeah, like the secret societies and whatever rituals they're doing and stuff.
Right, exactly. in the cartoons that the To the Stars Academy put out, there's a whole series about a character that's a lucid dreamer that goes out of body in his dreams at night and runs around in this astral dimension. And everywhere that he accesses, all the keyholes are Masonic square and compass symbols and little things, and it's all Easter egged throughout. I just want to ask these guys, what the heck is going on with all this stuff? Like, why are you trying to tell us this, and what is it?
Yeah, and they're no dummies either. Leaf, I have to a $5 super chat. Apparently, John Greenwald has a FOIA request in requesting confirmation regarding reports that Lou Elizondo wears rather be squidding's pajamas to bed. I love how
that too is under the UCR NDA. Sorry.
Amazing. Thank you so much, John Russell, for the $10 dono. The congressman had it right, not ours. Government slipped releasing the unclassified report. Now we got to push hard for what we're gonna lose the opportunity. And so, and again, not ours doesn't necessarily mean ET. It might. Also, governments can lie, and we just don't know, right? You go back to the UAPTF report. You got those 5 buckets. You got one bucket that's other. I agree though, John. We got to keep pushing. That's the whole point. Lo,
yo,
what's going on with you?
Nothing. I had to refresh my drink and then I got a snack.
How amazing was that, Congressman, by the way, confirming that the grassroots level of effort and just people like us and shows like ours pushing to contact the congressman and putting the word out is actually what pushes the ball down the field. That was really cool, because we sit here and wonder, are we even making a difference? You don't have any sounding board to hear back from as a community until these big things come out, and you don't know, are we making a difference or not? And he flat out said, he came on the show. First of all, Congressman came on the show and confirmed, you guys are making a difference, and everybody sending this in pushes it down the field.
Well, speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead and.
Well, I also like the fact that we kind of we kind of in a what's the word I'm looking for? In another way through Tommy Zito, we kind of got an answer through a congressman through him as well, considering he just had a sit down meeting with him. So, 2 congressmen in a sort of setting where people are activating themselves is a win for our phone home and win for everyone.
Absolutely. And for those of you who missed this on day 1 of the Big Phone Home, we got Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee, who is interested in this topic, and let's hear what he had to say about it.
Well, I'm a big believer in diversions.
Did you look at your last poop?
Oh, come on.
Did you, though? Did you look at your last poop?
You see what's going on in D.C., and then you wonder what's really going on in D.C.
Right.
And what are we being diverted our attention from? And, is that a conspiracy thing? No, that's just a reality. Right now, everybody seems to be focusing on, as they should, Afghanistan and that debacle. But the truth is, now they're diverting us from there because of the attention it's getting towards folks that are in power. And I mean, that's just the game they play. So you got to figure out what's going on. And this is one of those things that we just got to keep steady pressure, because it's kind of a flicker in the pan. They were going to release this thing, and then they held off on it, and then they released it on a Friday, which is the worst time for any coverage whatsoever. Because kids are where people are worried about football games and Girl Scout campouts and stuff on the weekend. I mean, it's just a complete diversion. It was obviously dropped at that point to do that, and to be it hits TMZ, and I saw somebody on Fox talking about it a couple of times, and I've talked about it on a couple of the shows, but nobody's really talking about it right now, and it's a shame because this is history in the making. I mean, this is something, an acknowledgement that in fact there is something going on out there.
Do you say that with confidence because of what you read, or is that just a personal belief?
I say it because it's the truth. I mean,
see, now here's my problem with that answer. We go back to this the begging the question, right? Yeah. And so is he not doing the exact same thing there? And I agree. Maybe what he meant is this the truth? He was talking about the UAPTF report. Maybe that's what he meant. We know there are things that are unidentified in the sky.
But he also sounded very unimpressed with the task force report, right?
He did.
He thought that was
I felt like he felt it wasn't enough in there.
Yeah,
that's what I felt like.
He kind of called out his other constituents, the other congressmen and things too, saying like, I think people are afraid of losing their support and everything if they come out about this stuff, even if they are involved in it at some level. And so it's just interesting to see people at his level involved. And I mean, he's saying that he's following the shows and trying to catch it on the news and go on the news and talk about it. But you're right. He flat out says it's the truth. But Lou Elizondo says the same thing. And a lot of people, but why does he say that? Does he have actual evidence he can present, or is it just his conviction?
Well, and that's the frustration. And this is like what, when we were talking to Lou that day, this is what Aaron DeSario was blowing the chat up about. He just had to throw in $100 just so we would hear him, because he's like, I call bullshit. Like, how long are y'all just going to keep saying the same drivel over and over and not give us any real answers? But at the same time, I get it. Like, I get this idea. Like, I'm not going to jail for this show. I promise you guys. I love you all. I love the chat. I love UFO Twitter, but I'm not going to jail for it. I wouldn't break an NDA so that you have a truth that I already have. I'm sorry. I wouldn't do that.
Well, yeah, Tim even went darker than losing your job. He talked about getting shot in the back of your head 3 times and it ruled a suicide. Like, it got pretty dark there. And, he was talking specifically about oil conspiracies and free energy, which is also something Danny Sheehan brought up the next day, which really hasn't been a part of the conversation as far as to my knowledge. And, I'm a little glad that people know me by Rather Be Squidding instead of my real name after hearing that.
Nobody knows my real last name. That's
and sure. all your children can't find you as well. So I imagine that's part of it.
It saves a lot of child support.
Both you and I, Michael, we're screwed.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We're all so hidden here on YouTube Live right now. Like, nobody's gonna find us.
Yeah, my digital footprint is easy to follow. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure.
All right. So, do you want to hit a little more of this Tim Burchett, or actually, this is more fun. Hold on, I'm going to share this one. There we go. Let's make sure we get some more ads for us as well. It's gonna be great. Oh, is that the same one? Yeah,
looks like the same one.
All right, hold on. Let's try this one more time. Your screen, Chrome.
Yeah, I mean, I just we got a senator or a congressman on the show. That's crazy.
That's huge. Yeah, I feel like we're
kind of not really
flying under the radar. That
oh yeah, it really is. Like, there was a congressman on our freaking show.
Right. Now, I mean, next big phone home too. That's got to be big press release, right? Like, I think this is just going to start. It'll give the credence for other senators, other congresspeople to come up and talk to us as well.
Yeah,
no, it definitely legitimizes the event when we can say, hey, Congressman Tim Burchett was here. Burchett, keep doing that.
Yeah, let's call him
Burchett.
And then we're going to have to start navigating the politics of this, because Burchett also made an important point in that if you only have Republicans, the Ds will shut it down. If you only have Ds, the Rs will shut it down. So, being able to make sure we have a balance and go to a Republican and say, we've got, 4 Ds and 4 Rs, I think that's going to be part of this tricky little navigation we got coming
It is,
at us.
but I don't think it's going to be as tricky as people think, because I think both sides are curious. Again, like Marco Rubio, Hillary Clinton, opposite ends, and they both agree on this.
The question,
can you imagine if they're both in a panel talking about it together? That'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Are the D's and the R's both under the big O, the oil industry, all together?
All sucking at the O-teat together.
That's the question.
Yeah, right.
Here we go. Oh.
This is a process. This is not an event. This is going to take time to figure out. I think if you look back at the last 3 years, we've come very, very far. I'm very optimistic we're going to continue to go forward on this. But I think anybody who thinks it's just going to be overnight, you're being completely unrealistic. I don't, that's not the way government works.
Robert, I can see you bursting at the seams here. I feel like you got something to say. And real quick,
I came on here and I didn't realize this was the Lou Elizondo show.
It's not the Lou Elizondo show.
As far as I know, I'm the only witness on this show. So do you have any questions for me?
What's your response to that? What's your response to the government liability concern?
Government liability.
He wanted nothing to do with that question.
Nothing to do
All
with
he
that
wanted
question.
to do was talk about, and I don't want to come down on Salas here because I just shared that because it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But he's more about what his experience was, and I wasn't lying. I literally went and bought his book the second that he said that, and I was like, "Come back on the show. I'm going to read your book, and we'll talk about it." And he just wasn't hearing me.
Well, I can't imagine the responsibility that guy had. That's huge.
No, I mean, again, he was the guy that was supposed to push the button.
Yeah.
And then that ability was taken away from him because things were shooting lights into the ground. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane. But here's the thing. He's not a witness. He didn't see the craft. He was underground. He was there when the missiles went down. And I asked him about this in person at a MUFON meeting. Because I was like, why are you so passionate about something that you didn't see? Like, how do you know the guys upstairs? Oh my gosh, I've got a phone call.
Yeah, so is his experience, would we classify that as a paranormal encounter or a techno hacking encounter? Or if he didn't see it, again, we're back to that question of experiencer. He's saying, I'm the only witness. First of all, I don't think that he's the only witness. Even
he wasn't, because I've also witnessed something.
I've seen things. I've seen things. Yeah, but if he's underground and just pushing the button, he's maybe an experiencer, but that's different than a seer or a witness. Right. It's a very gray area.
Just to play devil's advocate, there are theories out there that our nuclear technology has been deteriorating, and that something like Robert Salas experienced might have just been a technical glitch, and the whole UFO thing could have been kind of a covers because we don't want to admit that we're not keeping care of our vital technology nuclear infrastructure. There's a lot of questions.
You're muted, Mikey.
That was an excellent point, rather. Thank you. Real quick, I just wanted to acknowledge Bottled Water's $20 dono. I think today I clearly demonstrated on Twitter with Project Magma and Project Crane on these SAPs, and me and Luis had a DM about this the other day. Planes without control surfaces, etc. I've played in the testing realm.
Yeah, he shared a video with me about this plane technology that doesn't have control surfaces. So there's no flaps, there's no control surfaces.
Must have
things to make it turn.
Jets or something on all angles.
No, it's something where it's. I don't know. I'm not Boeing, but something along the lines of it. It produces its own stream in front of itself and follows that. It's pretty wild. He sent me a video of it. We could play it if we want. But yeah, I mean, just going back to Robert Salas, like it's you're really sort of taking a big leap there, considering you didn't see it. I mean, you saw the nuclear missiles shut down. But that doesn't mean what the guys upstairs are saying is accurate, or maybe they're seeing some. they had this panel at Contact in the Desert a few weeks back where Danny Sheehan was on there, and somebody, sorry if I'm forgetting the name. Look what Brian Sprague says. I thought that was disrespectful, Salas. I don't care what his job was. It was disrespectful. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it wasn't cordial.
If he didn't know that he was coming on a panel,
he knew he was coming on a panel.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he didn't know, it would be understandable.
Yeah,
but you told him what he was.
I told him. I sent him the schedule. I mean, he knew for a week and a half longer.
And Lou Elizondo didn't even say anything out of line or anything like to challenge him. It was just like
nobody was. He was just
like the amount of screen time shared or something felt unbalanced.
No, it wasn't even that. It was just like his story. Go.
Well, yeah, Lou was totally backing him up. Lou was really pumping up the nuclear angle. Lou seemed to be essentially confirming that these creatures have been living with us forever, and they're only now bothering us because of our nuclear capabilities.
Right.
Right into Salas' story.
I will say, though, he blew up after Lou Elizondo was saying, no, slow down. You guys, you can't move too fast. You got to take this one step at a time. I think Salas also did not like that. He's tired. We were talking about this earlier.
He wants to see it.
Yeah.
And again, we're going back
to waiting.
He's already thrown himself under the bus if he's violated his non-disclosure agreements and his confidentiality with the military and things like that. So if he's putting his neck on the line and then he sees Lou Elizondo being like, can't talk about that, it probably pisses him off a little bit. Like, step up to the plate, man. I'm putting my ass on the line. Why don't you step up here and have my back or something? So maybe, but why doesn't he just say that instead of, I didn't know this was, he should, I wish he would just call him out and say, why don't you say what you know? And
I think for us to say it'd mean a lot coming from Robert, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it was a passive aggressive way of telling him, hey, I've broken my NDA. What about you?
Yeah.
And
it would have been better if he just said that.
Yeah,
we don't know. We're speculating.
Well, yeah, we are speculating, but I mean, even then, it's like it's different, man. Like, it's different. Like, your experience happened in, what was it, 1980? I forget.
Well, not only that, but something happened to Robert Salas. Elizondo was kind of in charge of an operation collecting stuff. Like, it is a different.
They're different. They're different stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Lou Elizondo has hinted that he's had an experience, but I don't know if it was within the realm of his military work. Nobody's heard the experience. He just hints that he's had one. And I asked him, well, when you do tell the story, I'd love this to be the first show that you share it on. But I just don't think he's going to share it ever, if not for a while, because he doesn't want to muddy the waters with his story. I get that.
Yeah,
I'm sure he also doesn't want to look crazy. If it's imagine if it's an experiencer story, which is wild and it's not that wild to think of, because almost, be careful what I say here. A lot of the military members that I've talked to privately have had those kinds of experiences, like legit, not just seeing these things, interacting with them. And it's crazy to hear that. Like, it is, even for me. Like, I sometimes I'm like, wow, you okay, sure. Yeah, wow, it's coming from you. Okay, I gotta like slap myself and pour water on my face.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, I've heard some off the record stories from like stand-up ex-military people that would just knock your socks out. You're like, you're not allowed to talk about the like paranormal stuff, like bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. It's hard to take seriously, but again, we have to put it into a bucket of we have to sort this. We have to figure out how to sort this sort of stuff. And I try not to be as judgmental as possible. Real quick, G West, thank you for the $5 dono. Did I hear Lou right? When asked if there was a real UFO video out on the web that are labeled as fake, he said there were. I missed that. Did he did?
100%
say that. Yes.
Go ahead, rather.
Yeah, he said that. He said the truth was terrifying, and he said that there's real videos out there. I think he hinted that they're trying to use AI techniques to identify what the real ones out there are.
The deep fakes.
Yeah, I wish we could have dug more into that.
They have some kind of a software they're developing that can tell which ones are manipulated fake ones and which ones are legitimate. He also said at one point during his interview, I wrote some notes down when he was on with the ladies, where he was dropping numbers about like 100 there was 144 incidents and only one of them was figured out what it was. And all of those 144 incidents happened in the last year and a half, and we're only talking about the Navy.
That was from the UAPTF report, I believe.
Yeah,
directly from that.
This is an interesting comment from Ryan Sprague too. Salas claimed to have been abducted by aliens in 1985 in Huntington Beach. Has anyone looked into that? No, I have no idea. That's one part of the Salas story I've never heard. I've never heard that story.
Well, maybe
if Sprague will get in here.
Sprague, hop in.
I'll send him
$1.99. Crotchety old guy is crotchety. We'll be a little crotchety.
Got it, crotchety.
Crotchety be crotchety. Crotchety be crotchety.
Yeah, man.
This is kind of funny. I'm gonna do this real quick. Oops. I'm gonna share.
Gonna Sprague a link. See if he'll get in here.
Are you sending me
that story? Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of experiences, though, the first time I heard Major Lori, I forget her last name, but I thought that was a really, really enthralling conversation as well.
Yeah, Rafael.
Yeah.
We got to have her back on the show as well. I'm gonna play this real quick for those of you who didn't close out day 3 with us.
A really killer weekend. Way more successful than the first phone home.
I'm over the whole world.
We're monetized, everybody.
One promised us a.
Is Tommy still here? Is Tommy still in the room?
Who?
Oh, hey, Tommy.
Tommy Zito.
Dude.
Oh my God. Oh my God. We did it again. We did it again. Tommy, God, dude, this has been 30 hours, Tommy. Oh my God, dude.
I was like, I'm gonna sit here.
Dude, this is unbelievable. Tommy Zito, unbelievable, man. We freaking forgot Tommy Zito again.
I mean,
even with the scroll at the bottom of the screen.
And we're like, not only do we forget him, we won't even let him get a word in. Like, he's trying to tell us, like, it's okay, guys, I'm still here, but like, we just keep laughing and talking over him. It was so mean. I'm so embarrassed.
It wasn't mean. We didn't do it purposefully. But it was definitely on the phone
with the congressman.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was yelling. What did you say, Tommy?
I said, I'm surprised that you're surprised. I mean, think about my persistence with the congressman. I wasn't letting this go.
Oh my God, dude, you're such a good sport.
He's an inspiration, really. I mean,
he really is.
Wow.
He is, dude.
To be fair, it's the tail end of 24 hours live streaming. That's intense.
It was more than 24 hours, dude. I think the first day was 10 hours at least, and then the second day was 9.5. Or 9, and then day 3 was about 9. Yeah. So it was almost 30 hours, man. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot, but it was fun.
It was. Jason Smith with a $4.99 dono. I asked him if the truth was terrifying, and he did say yes, but then kind of juked the rest of the answer. Yeah, this is what I don't get about Elizondo, you guys. Like, I don't. I feel like he gives us so much of his time, his energy, his passion, like, and he talks to all of us over and over again. But he does. Maybe part of it's our fault because we have the same questions interview to interview. But I mean, like, he almost scares people and then says, "But I can't tell you the truth." Like, he almost puts it out there where he's scaring people, and then he'll be like, "But I can't tell you." And it's like,
yeah, interviewing him is like, or being in an interview is like being in an escape room where you're trying to like get the solution by asking questions, and you'll ask the wrong one, and I'll be like, "Oh, now you're gonna have this 2-minute explanation that you've already heard played and waste your time," and it's just you're trying to get to the truth, and the clock's ticking. Like, it's a stressful thing.
Oh, boy, rather. Clearly, you didn't get any sleep last night.
It sounds like a game show where there's a timer.
It's like how many
$200,000
how many different ways can we describe a threat? Can we talk about it? Falling off a horse could possibly be a threat to your life. So, I don't know. They talk about the UFO UAP phenomenon, and they say it is a threat, and we need to get the attention of Congress and everybody to pay attention to this and investigate it. But then at the same time, it's like if they were gonna hurt us, or they've always been here, and maybe there's something to learn about us spiritually and our own place in the world. But also, it's kind of a threat, and it's like, well, yeah, it's like this shell game of information.
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of like venturing into the West for the first time for the early settlers, right? Like I don't think. I mean, he's trying to say it's like, listen, if you're gonna go out and ride a motorcycle, put on a helmet, put on a jacket, put on some gloves, and be careful, because the machine you're riding could kill you, and the machine's not a threat. It's an inanimate object. Yeah, what are you saying?
He says two things. He says it's not. It doesn't have to be malicious to be a threat. And then on the other hand, he'll say, this could start new religions. And it's like, which is it, man?
I mean, to follow your analogy, Lewis, it's like if we're on a motorcycle on a dirt road, and Elizondo knows that there's potholes all around, but instead of telling you about the specific threat potholes, he's just telling you, yeah, there's things to watch out for. Be very careful in your journey. Like he's telling us the truth, but we know there's on fire today. That he can tell us.
It's almost like getting through that final test in The Last Crusade. Where you got to throw sand over the invisible bridge and have faith to cross it. Just all like the darts, flying past your head. I mean, I'm wondering if part of this is like him sort of testing how far he can go with his NDA. Like he gives little bits here and there just to see what kind of trouble. Yeah, see if he gets a phone call. I think that might be a good way to do it if you're sort of unsure, because I mean, like we talked about this last night, like Robert Salas broke NDA. You got to give him that, right? He's kind of takes a little moxie to break those NDAs because he could go to prison if the government wanted to knock on his door and take him to jail, but they don't, because I think part of it would confirm what he's saying, right?
Exactly.
I can see,
with Lazar, right? Why,
right?
Presumably, maybe he broke his NDA, but.
So if you work for the government and you break an NDA, is that like a felony? Because civilly, it's something that you would settle in civil court.
Right. So you could be sued
if it reveals national security secrets.
Yes, that would be
that's a difference.
Criminal.
Yeah, right. I mean, a movie set doesn't. Like if you broke the NDA on a movie set, you would just get sued and somebody might get a spoiler alert, whereas if you broke the NDA working for where Lou Elizondo worked, that could put some people out in the field in an awkward position. So I think that's the difference, but at the same time, like I don't think they would. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but do you think they would, if he just went, screw it, I'm going balls to the wall, and just starts to let it fly? Do you think they knock on his door and take him?
I don't think so.
I mean, I think if he starts flying, talking about what he did at Guantanamo Bay or his counterintelligence in Afghanistan or Iraq and specific details of missions, definitely.
Yeah.
It doesn't help his IG case or anything that he's currently involved with, and it probably would put like his pension and shit like that at risk. I would think. So I think that there are probably some real tangible.
No, for sure. No.
But
no, his pen. But I'm saying, would they arrest him? That's the question. Would they take him to federal prison and try him under like an espionage act or something like that?
Well, yeah, and he told us that there's these videos that they could take away the means and methods that would presumably are the reason why they classified, and they could release them. So presumably he could tell us those details, and there's no reason why those details should be classified. So I guess, I'm not a constitutional lawyer like Daddy Sheehan, who he's getting his advice from probably. But
who are you talking about?
Yeah, that's the other thing. We can wonder what Lou Elizondo thinks, but the people sitting next to him, talking to him, that aren't signing the NDAs, like Danny Sheehan, are saying, yeah, they're reporting that these things are extraterrestrial, coming from the backside of the moon, coming down to Earth from out of orbit and in and out of the oceans. And he just flat out says it like it's a fact. So,
weird. It seems like he has the opposite opinion of Lou. I don't think Elizondo would agree with that.
What?
That they're ET coming from the behind the moon necessarily. It seems like I got the idea that he thinks they're more coexisting with us.
We don't know what Elizondo believes.
But that
By the way,
both. That could be both.
Wait,
by the way,
behind
spring's
the
coming
moon?
Yeah.
Inside
came into this conversation.
I'm like, is that a tactical approach? Like you come from far away, you just align yourself with the moon, and then you pop out. Like,
what if you put the moon there because you terraformed the whole planet and put humans here too?
Exactly.
So
Okay. And then you're just hiding on the moon or under the oceans.
Yeah.
Or
let's hear from Danny for a second. Danny does not have an NDA, and this dude does not have a filter either.
And they were in this room downstairs in the basement of the Madison building.
And over the whole world,
Your stupid channel, Lou.
World War I.
Stupid monetized channel.
And there was nobody even there. It wasn't even open yet. It was brand new. It had just been built. And so when I went in, there were two suits that were standing in front of the door when I arrived, who checked out my passport and my driver's license. And then I was allowed into the building, and I went down the hall into an elevator they pointed out and went down into the basement. And there were these other two suits in front of this room. And I don't know, exactly what agencies they were from. I don't know, but I never got a clearance because Bob Fink, who was the chief investigator for Bella Abzug, who was the congresswoman from New York, who chaired the Senate or the House Judiciary Committee subcommittee on human rights, always said to me, he said, do not ever accept a classification, security clearance, because you can find out virtually anything you want to know without doing that. You got the kind of contacts, you got the kind of access to people. You don't want to have that, because what they'll do is attribute everything that you've ever discovered from any other source. They'll attribute it to your security clearance. And they'll stop you from talking about it publicly. So I've refused to accept a security clearance, and so that I didn't get a clearance to see that. I was
can I chime just a
Oh, I thought it was John Greenwald. I was like, sure, John Greenwald, you chime right in.
I got a little sucked into that for a second.
He's John Greenwald, of course.
April was like, how many people are on this panel? Jesus Christ.
Does he draw this? Does he draw the alien symbols here next? Is that?
Hold on, let me see if I can scrub to that real quick. Yeah,
there it
is.
Yeah,
it's so
like this different sequences of dots, and they were all around the bottom of the dome of the craft, like this. They were along the bottom of the dome.
He's talking about craft that these suits showed him underneath. What building was it, Carl?
The Madison building. Where was the location? At the Library of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was a brand.
This is like a Dan. This is like a Dan Brown novel. I mean, this dude is saying he was underneath the Library of Congress.
There's some creepy shit in libraries.
It's true. It's very
Did he
true.
specify what crash he thought this was? I got the impression that it was not Roswell, but did anyone know?
He said there was like something like 25 file boxes full of stuff on these folding tables down in this room.
Yeah,
this is just part of what he saw.
Yeah, but I'm thinking prop it up. There you go.
Yeah, see, I'll show you exactly what they look like, but I don't know what the sequence is. I don't remember the exact sequence they were in, but they were like this.
Kawaii.
I want to see how close my best was, because I drew some stuff.
Oh, what did you draw? Okay.
So this is Gary.
What does that mean, Andy?
Or no, that's.
I'll tell you later.
Andy.
I think I know.
Oh, what do you think it is, Jade?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to give anything away, but
you see it?
Lift it up just a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see this?
Yeah, a little. You know what? Let's let's hold on a second there. Let's blow you up real quick, Danny. Okay.
That's what they were a series of straight lines like that, pointing either from the lower left to the upper right, or from the upper left to the lower right, and they had a series of dots in little U-shaped things like this, okay, right here,
right.
in dots like this, different sequences of dots, and they were all around the bottom of the dome of the craft like this. They were along the bottom of the dome of the craft.
The bottom of the dome of the
got one more
craft.
question.
Like around the
that's,
rim.
That's very similar to cuneiform. Have you tried to match it based off of different dialects of cuneiform?
Yes, I have. It was not cuneiform. It's not cuneiform. It was not. It was these things here, and that all kinds of.
Who's that dude in the background just wandering around?
I think he's sitting in front of a mirror.
Yeah, he is sitting in front of a mirror. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, you guys. Danny Sheehan, man.
It's
That
alien
dude-
pinup art, right? Because that's
I
what
mean-
you put on a ship.
That's right.
Well, rather that would have been a great follow-up question, but it was so wild just listening and also producing the show and watching what he's drawing. But like, it rather does kind of bring up a good point. Like, if you saw that picture, it must have been attached to a file, and that file had to have maybe given you some details of, okay, this is a crash in Dayton, Ohio, 1947, dates, times, location.
Gary Voorhees was asking that question in the private chat the other day too, saying that a lot of secret U.S. tech might look pretty wild if you have no idea what you're looking at.
Right. No, I know I loved Gary Voorhees' questions, and I'm wondering if maybe McGowan was maybe helping him with some of those questions, because McGowan's the same way. It's like, you guys have no clue how technically savvy our military is and what kind of toys they have. And to a layman, those toys might look like alien craft. But speaking of alien craft
and cherubs,
we got Ryan Sprague. What's happening, beautiful boy?
Hey guys, how are you?
We're doing
Ryan,
good,
great
man.
to have you, brother.
Tell us about this Robert Salas abduction in '85.
Yeah, right. So I remember hearing him talk about it a couple years ago, and I was like, okay, here we go, because we deal with this in the field all the time. Like, someone comes forward with a story, and then it's like it just keeps growing and mutating. And when I heard this, I'm like, oh, come on, dude. Like, if it happened, it happened. I can't say it did. I can't say it didn't. But it was kind of like, just, I hate that. I hate when it's like the nuts and bolts, nuclear nukes and UFO people. And then now you're claiming you're abducted by aliens. Or you've got someone like Kathleen Martin, the abduction researcher. It makes a little more sense for her, having been related to Betty Hill. Like, she's claimed to now be an abductee too. So I always get a little hesitant when it comes to stuff like that. But I've got a little bit about Bob's experience here, if you want me to just read it.
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, it's pretty prototypical, but here we go. 1985, Huntington Beach, California. Let's see. Robert floated off the bed towards a locked bedroom window, which he felt certain that the aliens would be unable to lock. Nevertheless, he went through a window in an upright position and was taken aboard a craft. He was shown a needle 8 to 12 inches in length, which was inserted into one of his testicles in order to collect semen. Oy vey, the pain was excruciating, and when Salas complained to his abductors, the pain suddenly ceased. This was followed by a physical checkup in which his back seemed to be of primary interest. His next memories were moving through a curved hallway and seeing a bright light before suddenly finding himself back in bed.
So this was written from an interviewer's perspective, like was somebody interviewing them and then writing about this in the third person? How is this?
Yeah, this was actually related to Billy Cox, who's a journalist who does a lot of UFO journalism. I believe, actually, if I'm reading this correctly, by Bob's wife.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, let me see here.
And this was after the nuclear incident. This was later after he left the military.
Yeah, this is in '85. So I mean, many years after.
Ryan, what year did that event happen originally in the nuclear silo? I know we were in the Cold War, but do you remember the year exactly? I thought it was like early '80s.
I covered the case on a TV show. I should remember that.
Looks like
that was at Maelstrom, right?
1967, rather.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
Yeah, you're right. Maelstrom, Air Force Base.
Yeah. There we go. Yep.
I might be on your site, Ryan.
Yeah. God, I'm the worst ufologist. I don't know why I'm on here.
So no, you're great, Ryan. Thank you.
March 1967. Yep.
Okay, so that 67. Okay, so 67 that happened, and then 85, and then this was written by somebody who interviewed his wife. You said
this is Billy Cox. He's a really credible journalist. He's covered a lot of things. He's broken a lot of stories in the past, and I believe, I might be wrong, but I think Salas may have actually written a book about this.
He wrote a book. Yeah, I was just going to ask. I wonder if that's in it.
Yeah. I'd have to dig a little further, but I believe he's written about it, but he never seems to bring it up. You know, like if you're going to say, am I the only witness on this panel? Like, I mean, come forward and talk about this other thing that you supposedly happened to you. I'm clearly I was taken back about that, and it made for great television. It was hilarious. But I'm just like, dude, like this isn't the Robert Salas Hour. That's why it's a panel.
And I know he's trying to figure out why you need 8 to 10 inches to get into a testicle. Those are like big ass testicles.
That's a huge ass testicle, Kristen. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, to work at a nuclear base, you got to have some big balls.
There it is. There you go.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful. He had a very hard job. I'm sure it was stressful, especially with that event that happened there. And he is like you guys were saying in his defense, he's sick of it. Yes, there should be congressional hearings about UFOs and nukes before there's congressional hearings on just the UAP topic in general.
We're long overdue for congressional hearings.
Yeah, totally.
I get that aspect from him for sure.
Yeah. It just was. It threw me off a little when he did that. I think it kind of killed the room for a little bit.
Well, it's difficult, right? Because we're all looking for more scientific evidence to bring to Congress. And so when you have somebody who has an incredible experience with the, like you said, Ryan, the nuts and bolts of this nuclear phenomenon, and then later you also, and this is where I feel so bad for experiencers as well, because the second they bring up an experience like that is the second all of your credibility goes out the window, all of it. And that's really sad to me, but I get it. And it's like, how do we sort of like,
we can have the conversations, but we don't set the terms.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's like the mainstream media is going to set the terms on this conversation. Mm-hmm. When they're ready to have the conversation, that's when we'll be allowed to have it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the same with the Rendlesham guys.
It's true.
The Rendlesham case as well. It was very, we got the core story and that was it. And then, some 20, 30 years later, one of the guys says, oh, by the way, I had a binary code downloaded into my brain from the craft, and it is the location of a bunch of ley lines and freaking.
And then all of a sudden, and then what's also just like all the men have a different story.
Right. And again, this could have happened to Salas. This could have happened to Anjali. I don't want to come off like I'm disparaging these experiencers, because that's, again, what my work is based on. And granted, I've become a little cynical as the years have gone on and a little more skeptical, which I think is good in many different ways. But again, it's just like, I no one ever brings that up with Salas. I'm like, yeah, it's one of the preeminent cases when it comes to UFOs and nukes. His Faded Giant's amazing. But guys, he says he was brought on a craft and had a needle put in his balls. We got to talk about that.
Nobody brings it up ever, Ryan. Even we love to talk about the Tic Tac and the Nimitz encounter, but Kevin Day, he was the radar operator, and he's on several shows talked about how this sort of thing seemed to have telepathic communication even with him, and followed him home, and he had paranormal incidents and stuff that he doesn't even like to talk about on camera. Like, it's almost haunted him afterwards, and he was just a radar operator, and he was on the Nimitz, part of the Tic Tac encounters, you know. And so we want to separate all this out, and just it's not that easy, and that's why I think some of these guys get frustrated, you know.
Yeah, you're so right, man.
I mean,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, well, and you know, the new edition of my book, I did a whole chapter on Kevin, and you know, as I worked with him on the chapter and what to cover, of course, like, he brought up all that stuff to me, and I just remember like being on the phone with him and stuff, and he could barely get through it.
Yeah.
Some of these more high strangeness aspects of what occurred after the event. The same could be said for Matthew Roberts, the Gimbal, and what was the other one? Go Fast. He was on the Theodore Roosevelt when those happened, and went on to have experiences after that occurred. So again, I don't want to say these aren't happening. It could be the window or the door that opened after their initial experience.
It could be the door that opened, or it could be the trauma that persists.
Well, and it could be, you know, if you see something that's really otherworldly, of ET origin, and then, you know, after that, if you are convinced and you know that ETs are real, and you have a experience like sleep paralysis or some other like weird real phenomenon, I think that you could very easily attribute that to your ET hypothesis. I feel like that when I see Tom DeLonge on Joe Rogan showing us these YouTube videos that look clearly CGI to us, but you know, if he has some inside information that he knows that craft like this do exist, then it'd be very easy for him to look at something like CGI and say, yeah, that's real.
Yeah. Ooh, man, Michael's having some kitty issues. What's going on over there?
This cat hates me.
Icy.
The cat hates me.
Wow. Damn.
Is it a stray cat?
I didn't know this was the cat hour.
More cats. No more cats. But to your point, I mean, you make a great point. Rather, it's like, you know, if you've experienced like Kevin Day, like his interview in Showtime was moving. Like I was moved. I felt so bad for that guy. Like I felt so horrible that he lost his marriage. He lost his life. Like everything about that experience. He was on the Princeton, right? Or he was on the Nimitz?
He was on the Princeton.
He was on the Princeton.
He was on the Princeton. Yeah.
Right. Everything about that, like his experience, it was horrible. It was horrifying. And then he goes back and he can't sleep. His whole life falls apart because he had this experience of, you know, which was caught on multiple sensors, which can be validated in so many different ways.
You know who I'd like to hear from when I heard his story? His ex-wife.
Yeah.
I want to hear her perspective because she might have a different story. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's who I really wanted to hear from on the Bob Lazar story, because he had, I think, 3, or this is his 4th wife. The first one died under some pretty wild circumstances, and then he got quickly remarried, and then divorced.
That one over to Stacey and Alicia for trashy divorce.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious to know, like, from his ex-wife's perspective, what kind of, because we, you know, like we got the perspective from his current wife. Well, he's just an honest guy. Well, okay, great. Well, let's go talk to his ex-wife, see what she says.
Right, you know, but the ex-wife's always going to disparage.
Maybe,
so much
but you have friends though too, like because let's say he has a drinking problem, or he's got a PTSD, because I feel like PTSD is definitely a part of his psyche.
Right, and that breaks up a lot of relationships. Like we know that because of our military, you know, like it's hard to stay together for some people. So
right, and if he had PTSD from the Princeton experience, then that's what, you know, then he's going to bring that home, and that's going to destroy his life.
But I'm curious, did his PTSD start with the Princeton experience? Or was there something else that contributed to that PTSD? Because if he's having nightmares and waking up every night and bothering his wife like Richard Dreyfuss, she would probably tell you, yeah, he's waking up every night. He's talking about UFOs constantly. Like he wouldn't stop. And so, yeah, the marriage ended. Whereas, oh no, he had a couple of buddies who died, you know, or whatever the situation is, man. There's sometimes in basic training, these guys have accidents that are just screwed up. Like somebody doesn't, I've seen that. Yeah, I'm sure maybe you guys haven't seen this, but like this army training video where they're teaching him how to throw a grenade, and the dude pulls the pin and threw the pin and dropped the grenade. And so the trainer pushes him over the barrier and gets over the barrier before the grenade goes off, like stuff like that, you know? So it's just like, I just want to, it's not that I don't trust Kevin Day's story, but I also want to get other people's perspectives to paint, okay, who are we dealing with here?
That's,
you know what I'm saying?
That's really important. And when I wrote the first edition of my book, that's when I was like really boots on the ground. I traveled the country and met with people. I wasn't, you know, going to just do it through Skype or anything like that, because I wanted to embed myself into these people's lives. And
There's also probably wasn't a pandemic too.
Exactly. And yeah, this is back in like, I started researching and writing it, I think in 2014. And I went and met this woman at a diner in Arizona. And, you know, I'd heard that she had a few abduction experiences. And I was new to the abduction phenomenon and in researching it. So I was like, oh, this is going to be a cool story. Like, I'm going to meet her like at a diner. This seems like I'm in like a movie or something. But I remember when I went, like how naive I was to the impact these events have on these people. Like, it wasn't just a cool alien abduction story to her. This was traumatic. And what surprised me is her husband joined us. And I remember sitting at the diner for like 3 hours, just hearing her story and watching her like squeezing her husband's hand so hard when she was reliving these experiences. Like, he had indents in his skin. I was watching and she was crying and he was trying to hold back tears too and like consoling her. And I'm just looking, I was almost out of my own body in that moment, like looking at what this must look like someone giving their abduction story, the significant other next to them, supporting them. And then I remember after that, like, she hugged me and everything. She said, you can put it in the book. And just talking to him. And I was like, all right, what do you think? Like, I understand she clearly went through something traumatic. There's no doubt about that. But what do you think? And he told me, he's like, dude, when we first started dating, I remember I knew nothing about these experiences, anything like that. She'd never seen the movie we were about to watch. And they sat down, you know, for like a date, watch a movie. And it was Communion, the Whitley Strieber movie. And the first time the alien showed up, she flipped the couch over, he said. And she got behind it and she just started having a horrible panic attack. Again, mind you, she'd never seen the movie. She wasn't like into UFOs or aliens. And he was like, that was the moment when I knew like something's up. Like, she firmly believes this happened to her and I'm going to do whatever I can to support her. But that's tough, because then you're like, but what if it is some sort of misinterpretation of something that happened to her when she was younger? Well, and like, are you enabling it? And that's where, but I think it's also important to talk to people in their family.
Did she ever seek out professional help?
Yeah. I put her in touch with a therapist, not an abduction hypnotherapy, nothing like that. Like, in my work, I do not turn people towards that.
Have you ever considered having a sit down with her therapist and her, you know, where it's not like a confidentiality thing where it's like, okay, hey, can we sit down and talk about this a few years after therapy and see where we're at with this? See if we've made any sort of revelations or discoveries through this process. Because I'd be interested to know if this, and I'd also be interested to know if the therapist has sort of changed their tune on maybe what they went in with versus what they're coming out with.
You know, and I think that's important for these experiencers to go to an actual therapist, so that you're not getting any sort of preconceived notions or leading questions. Or that's the biggest controversy with hypnotherapy in the abduction realm, is these are all alien abduction researchers doing the regression. So it's almost impossible to not lead them. Some are better than others.
Was that the case with Betty and Barney Hill, though? The people, because from what I understand, the doctor that was researching, or the psychologist that was dealing with Betty and Barney Hill, went into it thinking that this was trauma based off of the aspect of their relationship being an African-American man and a white woman in America in the late 50s, and he thought that this was sort of them. This is how they manifested that.
How they process their trauma.
Yeah.
Yes. From what I remember, the therapist in that case did not buy into the alien abduction aspect of it.
At first, but then after dealing with them, actually working with them for a while, he was like, no, something happened.
Interesting. Okay.
Like something happened to these people. What it is, of course, I don't think that psychologist labeled it, but that there is clearly a mark of trauma here.
Right.
They believe what they're saying is true. I don't think it's a mental issue. It's definitely not stress induced from their relationship. Like all of the things that he thought it did not end up being. So that's one case where I'm like, but that was kind of one of the firsts,
There were no abduction psychologists at that point.
Right. At least not that I don't think so. It wasn't really that big a thing in pop culture at that point, right? But
what do you guys think about? Because wasn't it? I won't go too deep in the weeds. I know you have plenty of other things to talk about tonight, but
we're actually wrapping up here in a few minutes.
Okay.
No. I want you to finish, but I quickly wanted to hit bottled water $10 donation. Thank you so much. You never know what will set someone off in the military, and yes, privates as dumb enough to throw the pin. That was from a conversation we had earlier.
Wasn't that in the army now? That
no, this was like a real, this was on YouTube or something. Yeah. But yeah, I think they did. I think they did something like that in the army now. Yeah, or Stripes, one or the other.
One of those. There's that whole argument that Betty Hill, I think, saw an episode of The Outer Limits or something like a week before their event, and it was about aliens, and they looked very almost identical to what they ended up describing in their experience. So again, we could debate that case forever, but it's cases like the one where I went in Arizona where I'm like, damn, this isn't just a cool story. This isn't just sensationalism. This dramatically affects people. So the only reason I bring it up is I know you're going to have Salas on for an actual interview.
Yeah,
I would say that right, you got to dig into him about this abduction thing, because he hasn't talked about it in years, and I don't know if he's trying to put it back under the rug. Yeah, I don't know, but dude, own it.
We'll
a lot of these other experiencers do. Own it.
We will definitely ask him if he comes on. I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he does.
We didn't miss a super chat from Matthew Riot, did we? He thinks we're mad at him, I think.
Uh-oh.
I think he was calling out. No one called out Danny Sheehan about his accessing classified information without any security clearance. And I think John Greenwald did push back on that a little bit.
He did.
Trying to dig into that, but I would like to dig into that further too, because that's a major inconsistency, and I agree with Matthew Ryan.
I think those are things. Look, we've got Sheehan's number. This man is not afraid of a microphone. He likes talking. So I don't think it's going to be an issue to bring him back and really pay. I mean, honestly, he loves talking about this. He loves it.
Danny Sheehan.
Yeah, loves it.
I would love to just hear an hour of him saying, okay, what else did you see down in the room and all those boxes, and what was on the outside of the boxes, and go into detail. Can you describe, were they wearing anything? I mean, that could be a whole show, just letting him go off,
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Ryan, thank you so much for jumping in here. I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed we didn't have more time to talk with you. But you have to. You still owe me an interview. You owe me.
We have some Phoenix Lights to talk about. I've got some
we do.
Interesting updates for you on the Phoenix Lights incident.
What?
Or you can hear Fife Simonton talk about it this weekend at the UFO conference.
Buy your tickets at the UFO, the International UFO Congress at www.theUFOcongress.com. It's at the scroll down below.
See the link below. What a pleasure having you, Ryan. Thank you for popping in for us. Can you tell people if they want to find your work, where they might do so?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Somewhere in the Skies every Monday, wherever you get podcasts. I had Mick West on this past week. I've gotten some interesting feedback. People didn't really...
I gotta watch it. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
It's been rough. I almost cried a couple times, but I'm a sensitive guy to begin with. But hey, I have to thank you guys. Chris Lito's coming on my show next week to basically, show the other side of what Mick West has brought forward. I thought that was very important.
That's great.
And then hopefully we can somehow bring them together. I think that's what Mick West stressed is I'm willing to talk to these guys one-on-one. So like have them reach out to me, like stop doing these YouTube videos of like you doing this without me being able to be a part, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, Chris Lito next week. Wow. I have hijacked this show. SomewhereInTheSkies.com.
I love it. It's great.
Goodbye.
Please do not feel bad. Ryan, I just want you to know you are always welcome here and we love you. Please do not feel pushed out or rushed or anything. It is all good, my friend.
Yeah, always open door.
I appreciate your time.
All right, dude.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Kooky Nick with the $5 dono from New Zealand. I got you, Matthew Riot. I feel bad. I didn't mean to miss the super chat.
No, we didn't mean to miss it. I can't believe we missed it. What I was gonna say is, I can't remember.
Well, you wanted me to read them, and then I had to run.
Yeah. Well, next time, Kristen's gonna start reading the super chats on the show, and she's gonna start doing the poll as well.
Oh,
excellent.
Yes.
Get to be a lotto girl after all.
Your dreams have finally come true, Kristen.
You get to be Vanna White.
It's all happening.
All happening. It's all. I bet you whispered that in her ear last night. It's all happening. It's all here. It's all for you.
Carl Vibe. If people want to follow your channel, how might they do that?
They can check me out on Carl Vibe. Yeah, I've got a link tree down in the description of all my videos. Go check it out. I'm going to be going to Phenomicon tomorrow, touring Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch, meeting all the cast and crew and a bunch of cool people. And I'm going to be filming a lot of that. And I've been doing expeditions, going to abandoned locations, doing paranormal research and
that's awesome.
Ancient petroglyph sites and researching them all out and filming videos on my big channel. And
tell Dragon we said what's up.
I don't know whether to wish that you do get a hitchhiker or that you don't, but whichever one you prefer, I wish that.
I'll go to Skinwalker Ranch. I'll go to Homestead 2. I'll pick up a hitchhiker for everybody and bring him home.
There you go.
We'll do a show. He'll sit right over here. Really great.
It's a whole
That'll
new
be
channel.
awesome, dude.
Do we still have Tommy Zito on the line?
Jesus, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I see Danny Sheehan's video in the thing below, and I'm like, wait, I keep going. Damn it, Danny's waiting. What's going on? I'm having PTSD
from this. Yeah,
dude. Dragon for some reason hasn't been checking his messages on Twitter. I guess he's been busy. They're doing something.
They probably started a new season. He told me they were a little running behind filming the next season, so they must be catching up, filming like crazy. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, dude. Well, we'll see you later, buddy.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. All right. Well, what a hell of a show. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Make sure you check out Rather Be Squidding's channel. His link is in the description below, as well as the Unidentified Celebrity Review, which is in the description below. We are here 5 days a week, 2 days here at the Singularity Lab and 3 days over at UCR. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. And we'll see you tomorrow on UCR with who? Do we have a guest lined up?
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to have Tyler Zarandic. He's going to stop by. We're going to give him a whole 2 hours, man. We're going to dive deep into what the things that Tyler Zarandic is saying. He also's got a new show on Discovery Plus that we're going to talk about. So there's it's going to be a cool conversation tomorrow. So definitely check it out.
So dope. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace. Do you want to know about the future? I do. And I know you do too. That's why we do what we do, right here at the Singularity Lab, just for you. Do you want to know about stories about breaking technology? Science? Look right here, I'm looking at my sheet. Marty did it. Why can't you? Remember, this is a public access channel. We rely on your donations, so just hit the Patreon. So we can continue to bring you updated science and technology breaking news every single day.